2. This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
Heroes, gather tribute and earn my favor. What do you say? Are you ready to begin?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 166 of Lords of the Storm, a Heroes of the Storm podcast. I'm joined tonight, of course, by the Zord Lords themselves, Mr. Kevin Multizord Ellis and Ryan TBK Zord Reader, and I am Greg Gizmo Zord Parker. On this week's episode, BlizzCon tickets have, of course, sold out, but there are more tickets coming up for some BlizzCon action. We have some changes coming to ranked play for this next season. Next Mania hits the PTR. Surprise AMA, kind of a surprise AMA, hit Reddit today. And we have an interview with Tyler Rosen. Or is it Rosen? Rosen from Heroes of the Dorm. You know how I am with names. Welcome to the show. How are you guys doing this evening? Multi, how are you?
I'm doing well, although I have to say it was a blue and black dress, and the word is Laurel. I only hear Laurel, and I will not hear anything else.
Yanni?
How do you hear Yanni?
It's a frequency thing.
Yeah.
So I have younger ears.
That checks out. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Third
Now,
opinion. I haven't listened to it, and I don't care.
You should care.
You say you don't care until you hear it and you're in a room with somebody else and they say, oh, obviously it's Laurel. And you go, no, it was totally Yanni.
My wife can hear both. It's kind of like a garbled mix of the two for her. So she must be just right on the top of the hill, and I am just over it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So new hero Yanni coming to the game. No, not really. TBK, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I am pretty much recovered from my weekend Heroes of the Dorm experience, which was super fun. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And to answer your question, yes, it was very much a surprise AMA, considering it was announced the day before
Right.
it actually happened.
I'm excited to hear about Heroes of the Dorm. I'm also salty to hear about Heroes of the Dorm because I also had to listen to Jules talk about how awesome it was yesterday or last night on Convert to Raid.
Ooh, so double helping of rub it in your face.
So I may just leave and once you start talking and
It's just stand up.
go take a nap or something. What have you guys been up to in gaming this week? TBK, we'll start with you.
Lots of heroes. And that's honestly pretty much it. I got so psyched from Heroes of the Dorm that I just couldn't play anything else but Heroes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, I got
Lots of Heroes.
So I started playing Karazim again last night, and he's fun. Insight build's cool. I should have listened to people sooner. So I'll probably be playing him quite a bit. But yeah, it's been Heroes in Rocket League, really strangely enough for me. Casey, Thorzord, got me back into that, and we've been playing this season. But those are pretty much the two that I have been on this last week. Multi, I imagine some Hearthstone, some Heroes. What have you been up to?
A little bit of Hearthstone, but honestly, more Heroes when I could squeeze it in, especially because there's a certain event coming up that we haven't discussed yet. But so I'm doing my thing where I try to find out what heroes I have that are going to level soon-ish. You can actually sort, again, your profile by go into the roster and sort by number of experience that you need for the next level. And so I was trying to shoot for heroes that are like 300-ish K out, because if you get a good win with the boost going, it can be around that. So I had one where on Nubrek, I finished the game and you couldn't even see the leveling bar anymore because I was just like 3K away from leveling, so that one worked out. But then I did another one with Vala later, and I was actually partied up with 3 of my real life buddies. None of you guys, though, I don't think. Swift was there, though. And that one, like, because I was partying with so many friends list people, we won, which is good, yes. But yeah, I leveled Vala, so kind of ruined the effort. But that's my plan until next week, because I am all about this event coming up.
Yeah,
I'm working on the same thing.
I have a couple
Trying to get close.
that are, I think, like Alex Straza, Medivh. Who else? I got a couple that are like level 3 or 4 that I can crank out. So
A couple good levels with, yeah.
Yeah, so to get those. But yeah, it'll be exciting. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Before we get into the news, Patreon updates. So we had a couple new members last week, and Eric W. has earned thy honorary Zord title. You have been deemed worthy of bearing the Zord title. Welcome to the Zord Lords. Rogue Zord, welcome to the Zord Lords. Thank you very much for your support. We really do appreciate it. And again, thank you to all of our patrons out there for supporting the show. Now, let's go ahead and hop on into the news. All right, first up, Heroes Charity Brawl 2018. It is coming up. It is here, almost. It will be June 2nd at 2 p.m. Pacific. And that, of course, if you haven't watched before, it is going to be TBK and myself from Lords of the Storm. Multi's not going to be able to make it. He has a family thing. So they hate children.
Do.
They hate children. It's going to be the guys from Core and Into the Nexus and Heroes Forge. And then we also have Jules joining us as well this year. And she played one of our games last year. It was either last year or was the first year? I don't remember.
Yeah, last year.
I think it was the first year. Was she the one that was actually drawn?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was the first year, which was pretty funny. Of all the chat,
It's
it was something
crazy
I ended up
that
knowing.
this is the 3rd year we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that is coming up.
I also, real quick, I feel like all we've done this episode is talk about Jules Scott, which is fine. She's nice, but that's twice now we've mentioned it.
There's a theme. It's a theme.
It's okay, I'll mention her again because I saw her at Heroes of the
Yep.
Dorm.
Okay, sounds good.
But the website is up. That's going to be at gofundme.com/Heroes Charity Brawl 2018 that you guys can check out. We'd love to see you all there, even if you can't make donations. And again, these are going to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Just being there to help support the cause is greatly appreciated, and we look forward to doing that again. Seems like it wasn't so long ago that we did it the first time.
It's true. And just like before, this will be taking place on Scott's channel, twitch.tv/frogpants. And crazy enough, we already have $120 in donations. You guys are absolutely ridiculous. And
awesome.
sneaky finding the page already.
Yeah.
We're actually upping our goal this year to $5,000. So we're hoping we get that and just blow past that, because this is a really, really awesome charity. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll have giveaways, we'll have wackiness, and we'll have what are sure to be some very special game modes, some of which will be completely new this year. So cannot wait.
Ooh.
Yep.
As long as we
I
get
think
to do Mortal Kombat again, because I need redemption.
That was a really fun one.
That was a fun one. That one has to come back for sure, for sure. I was just gonna say,
Who
I
won
think
that
I'm actually. It was. I forget. I totally forget.
I won the most rounds, and then
It was me, Gizmo.
I won the most rounds. Who are you playing, Lunara?
On Arthas.
Arthas.
Oh, Arthas.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Arthas is 1v1 champion.
That Army of the Dead was the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out.
Mm-hmm. Whatever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have more information about that again in the coming weeks, but mark it on your calendars. June 2nd, 2 p.m. Pacific. Be there or hate children. Just kidding.
Like my family does.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Actually, no, my family, I was going to say, my family loves children to the point where I think I'm actually going to be able to watch the entire thing, because when you've got a newborn, 6-month-old, they take up all of the attention everywhere you go. So I think that I could literally just hand my kid over to my family and then just disappear for 4 hours and watch the whole thing. So that's my plan.
Yeah, do it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So BlizzCon tickets, of course, went on sale last week. The first night was last Wednesday, sold out instantaneously. Second day was that Saturday, which was also Heroes of the Dorm, sold out instantly. So again, there are places you can look, LF BlizzCon, to try and get some tickets if you're still looking for some. But there are tickets to some more festivities that are going to be happening. The BlizzCon opening week, which they had last year, however, it was not open to the public. So we do have the arena in Burbank now, the Blizzard Arena, and we had the opening week matches there, but it was closed. It had just opened up, so it wasn't open to the public. They are opening that up now, and you can buy tickets to watch those matches. Tickets are going to be $30 for day pass, and those are going to be going on sale May 17th at 8 p.m. Pacific.
So tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow. And they're going to be doing Heroes of the Storm Global Championships, which starts Thursday, October 25th, and I believe go through Sunday, October 28th. That sounds right. Yes. And then the World of Warcraft arena stuff will be on that Monday, the 30th.
Gotcha. I see
And
it
StarCraft
as
as well.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
StarCraft.
I see it as May 17th at 8 a.m. Pacific. So
That's it. 8 a.m.
these aren't going to sell out as fast as BlizzCon itself for sure, but you do kind of wonder. I mean, if I was angling to go to this, I would be getting my tickets on the early side.
Yeah, it's. I saw this and it's like, man, I really wish I could go a week earlier. But
Right.
if it was Heroes, if the Warcraft stuff was first and then the Heroes was going and was going to be on that Monday, maybe. But one,
yeah,
I
fair
wouldn't be
point.
able to afford.
It's quite a few days early.
Yeah, and I also wouldn't be able to afford 4 or 5 days of $30 a pop, also stacked on top of the BlizzCon
Plus
ticket.
all the
Hotel
extra days
and
of
everything.
hotel
Yeah.
that you would need. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You could have a sweet Halloween though. I'm just saying.
and if you're down in that area and you haven't been to the arena yet, I've heard it's amazing. I'm sure TBK will gush about how cool it is later. No one cares, TBK. But if you're in the area, it could be a cool thing to check out. So make sure and look forward to that. Should be cool. We had the AMA today. I feel like we had one just not too long ago, right? And we did, which is another reason
Pretty
why this
visible.
one was super surprising to have it this quick. But in that, they talked about some of the ranked stuff, answered a lot of questions that we had, gave people answers that were upset on a lot of things, and announcement came through that some of the ranked play stuff is coming to the 2018 Season 3. Because of this, though, first and foremost, the start date is going to be pushed back. It was supposed to start on June 11th. Now it's going to start the week of July 9th. So it's like, 3 weeks? 4 weeks? 4 weeks.
Is it 4? I'll count it out.
Math is hard.
Keep going.
So a little bit of pushback there, but it is super going to be worth it. First and foremost, we have our third bands coming. But not only do we have the third bands coming, they listen to the feedback, and instead of the third band being added to the middle phase, it is going to be added to the top. So it's going to be the 4 bands before the draft even starts. So just, again, the Heroes team listening to the community, taking the feedback, and responding with that, which is great.
Responding fast, honestly. I mean, it's something I still disagree with. I personally would like the mid band, but I mean, the more overwhelming, and I think you guys both were pro pre-ban, and I think that's what the community said, and it is cool to see them respond that fast.
Yeah, I was kind of either or. I understood both. I think for us personally, the mid ban could have been better, but I absolutely agree that we should be playing and drafting the same way that they are competitively.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's
which
for sure.
this is the
Yeah.
way it should be competitively.
And remember, this is not necessarily set in stone either. We're going to have this for the phase 2 of HGC this year. We're going to have this for this next season. But if things don't work out, or if it doesn't work out like people thought it would, or after it's been tested for a while and the feedback is, maybe it would be better in the mid, there's completely precedent that Blizzard will change it or potentially even try it in the mid phase in another season too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, in them getting this in for phase 2, I'm almost more excited about that than I am it even getting put into the regular client for us.
Just so we can
because-
see a bunch more diversity in the comps and all
yeah,
that stuff.
I think it's really
And-
going to help, which will be awesome.
It will.
Just because we're on the subject, I believe July 9th is after the start of the phase 2 season. So and just a little AMA spoiler, this was asked about, but it's kind of relevant to this. They asked if it was going to go in early for like HGC stuff and stuff, and they said that they're waiting to put it out till the start of the rank season. So we may see the first week or 2 or 3 or whatever. I don't have the schedule right up. We might see the first few weeks played on a 2-ban before it switches to a 3-ban.
Yeah, but they are going to get with everyone to explain how it works and stuff, just so they're ready for when it hits live, which is
Yep.
great because hopefully it's not going to be 2 weeks after it hits live. Hopefully it'll just be live. Bam, they start playing on it, which is cool.
It'll actually be interesting to see the teams react to that in the middle of a season, like just to see how the drafting changes. Like, are they going to use it to ban meta heroes, or are they going to use it to like target opponents on the other side? It's going to be interesting. I'm actually kind of excited about it being midway through the deal.
MMR and rank decay is coming into the game for season 3. This is only going to affect diamond and above, and it is going to have different inactive days before it kicks in for each. For diamond, that'll be 20 days, master 15, and grandmaster 10. You're going to have extra grace period days, which I'm not exactly sure how this works. Is that, say you're diamond, so you have your 20 days, but you miss 25 days. Does that take just from the pool of your grace days?
That's what I understand.
Kind of like the
from
time,
this.
the draft
think
pool or
so.
whatever, the timer.
Yeah, because it's saying additional grace days by regularly playing Hero League matches during the season.
They give an example. A grandmaster who has played very actively may be able to take a 20-day break from Hero League for a vacation or otherwise before they get any decay. But of course, I mean, if you're not active on the ladder, then you can still be passed up by people who are.
Yeah.
And that's just true across the board. But
So I imagine there will be somewhere on your ranked screen, there will be a countdown that says how many days until the decay kicks in, and then perhaps depending on how many games you've been playing and how active you've been, it'll give you your bonus days up there and show you.
I hope it's face up like that, and we can just actively see it.
Mm-hmm.
That way you could.
I'll
plan
never
like
see
a
it. Let's be
vacation.
honest.
Sure, I expect a lot of UI changes actually
Yeah.
when this new season goes in to kind of add into everything.
Yep. Placement seeding and reseeding coming in. So players who enter ranked play for the first time can no longer be seeded into placement matches higher than gold 5.
That's cool.
Yeah, which is
That fights smurfing is what it does.
Yeah, for sure.
And then another thing that some people have been doing, players who return to Hero League after an extended break will no longer be reseeded into placements based on their performance in other modes. And this is just for people who either haven't been playing ranked for whatever reason, or just they've been avoiding it because they know their MMR is better in other modes. You know, some people were say they weren't happy with the rank, but their MMR is super high in quick match or unranked. They were just continuing to play those. And then if it was a long enough period, their next placement matches would be based off of that MMR instead of your ranked. That's no longer going to be the case, which I think is a fair thing. It's a way to keep people wanting to play ranked, not try and work the system, and should be good.
Does this help returning players ranked MMR or hurt it though? That's what I'm trying to read into this because like take the Tank Zord example again. A guy who hadn't played in a little while came back, got his placements done, and placed quite a bit lower than he thought. Would this maybe cause him to place higher because now it's just basing it off of the placements that he had done? Or what?
It depends on what his. I mean,
depends how his placements go.
Yeah, and it depends on what his quick match or unranked MMR was previously. Maybe that was really low, which is why his placement matches were affected by that.
That time, but I mean, I'm just wondering if this new system would have been better for him.
Potentially, if
he had placed higher back in the day,
previously,
because that's what he would have been taken. And interestingly, too, it feels like platinum is going to be the new diamond now, as far as the whole maybe curve. Top end of gold, low end of platinum is going to be the new diamond, because the whole diamond 3 thing was everyone just gets shoved into diamond 3 thing, and now the highest you can place as a new account, is plat 5.
It will move the curve as to where like people landed. So, So yeah, the prestigiousness of platinum has gone up. 30 is the new 20, guys.
30 is the new 20. But yeah, because they condense placement, so you can only place within one full ranking structure of where the placements start at. So if they start at gold 5, that means you've got between silver 5 and plat 5 that a new account can land.
Gotcha.
Those should be good changes going forward there. And then the last thing that's going to be put in just some ranked matchmaking improvements. So they're hardening the rules for the matchmaking to bring us higher quality matches instead of what they've done previously, which is try and make sure the queue times are short. So this has the potential to increase queue times for Hero League. However, we're not going to see the weird instances where there's like grandmasters and platinum or gold people in the same matches, hopefully, which were seemingly rare, but it did happen. Everything should be much more even now. You just may have to.
You know what?
I
feel like this is a direct response to feedback as well. So it's just good stuff.
Yeah.
And interestingly, they don't, at least in this article, because I guess this article is specifically ranked, they don't mention the hardening of the quick match rules either.
Yeah.
But that was mentioned in the AMA. So I have to assume that rule set hardening is probably going to come with that big patch as well.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully. We can hope. The one thing I was really sad to not see in this is performance-based matchmaking. Doesn't seem to be coming this season. And the last we heard, they were hoping for that to be put in.
Right.
With the starts.
We do. There is an AMA answer just for you, Greg.
Yes. If you're referring to the one that's somebody asking about the UI.
The one about performance-based matchmaking.
And the UI for that?
Ooh. Let's get there before we speculate.
Yeah. Okay. I think I know what you're talking about, but maybe not. Maybe I missed it. Next Mania is going to be coming up. We talked about that last week. This is, and I'll say this, Pat Crane, host of Convert to Raid. Words from his mouth, Nexomania is the coolest event Blizzard has ever done in any of their games.
Yeah, agreed. Patrick Beja, I saw on Twitter, had the same sentiment, and I mean, I kind of have the same sentiment. The weird thing about it is that like I've never been into wrestling of any kind, and like luchador wrestling, definitely not. But like I need this. I need all of the skins and all of the tints and all the mounts. It's just for some reason, it shouldn't speak to me because I've got no sentimentality behind this thing, but I am all about it. I don't even know why.
Yeah. It's incredible. So we talked last week about it. You know, it was kind of announced, but it wasn't really announced that there was going to be an event. We just kind of thought it was a pack, possibly like the Mecha stuff that was coming out. It is actually going to be an event. And with this, it's in the PTR right now. So we're assuming it's going to be going live here this next week. The skins that you can get in this, the legendary skins, you'll have Lunara, Sonya, and Garrosh. El Jefe Garrosh, which is the best skin name to date. El Jefe, fantastic.
And the necklace.
Yes.
Like, are you kidding
That says
me?
Hefe.
Yeah.
So good.
Epic skins, we're gonna have Diablo, which again, I'm gonna be honest, the Diablo skin it's not all I was hoping and dreaming a wrestling Diablo skin would be.
Maybe
It's
not
pretty
but
good.
the third tint, the one the underworld Chamuco Diablo. God, I shouldn't try to pronounce any of these things. Where he's got the kind of like the ribs showing and stuff. I don't know.
It's like
cool.
it's the glow in the dark paint. And
Yeah,
all the
that's
skins have one, I think.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping
Lunara ones especially look sweet.
I really
it does.
hope they actually kind of glow in like say Garden of Terror in the night phase, or perhaps in like Tomb, the Spider Queen where it's dark
maybe.
in there. That would be dope. But yeah, we got Diablo, ETC, and Karazim, which Karazim not really like a luchador wrestler, but still really cool. It's a dope skin. It reminds me of Punch Out for some reason.
Yeah, it kind of does, especially
Is it
that.
because he's a boxer?
Oh, maybe that's it. I was wondering why. No, I feel like it's
Ooh,
one of the,
green
the first
shorts
guys you
and-
face
yeah.
in Punch Out.
The ETC one was actually the one that caught me by surprise because they didn't like have posters or anything for the Karazim and ETC ones, but the ETC one looks incredible, and I want
Yeah,
to use it all the time.
It looks straight out of the movie Coco, no question. But yeah, no, I'm amped for all this.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
But that's not all. We have mounts. We, of course, have our Luchihuahua mount coming in, which is a giant chihuahua
It's
with
bigger than we
with
thought
a
it was
wrestling
gonna
mask.
with a wrestling mask.
With a
That
wrestling
thing,
mask.
I just have to say, I pictured it because we saw it kind of hinted in that, the poster and everything. And so I thought, okay, if this thing is going to be a mount, I was picturing it like maybe Wonder Billy size,
Yeah.
or the Treasure Goblins maybe. And that could have been fun, having like a giant wrestler Diablo riding on this tiny dog. But no, you are right. That dog is huge.
It's like Sergeant Hammer huge.
Yeah.
It's a big old puppy. We also have the Pignata, which is cool. It's a pig pinata, if you didn't get that from the name. And when you dismount, it explodes like a pinata.
As all pinatas should.
Yeah. And then also the Great Razor Grin mount, like a shark mount. It has kind of the surfboard animations, I'm assuming, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, we're getting a lot of portraits, a lot of sprays, all that type of stuff. But that's not all, guys. We are getting, for the first time, we've had event quests before. You're going to have a choice between which two quests you want to do. There's a quest line for Lunara, and there's a quest line for Sonya. You got to pick your side. And for these, it's the same quest goals themselves, but you'll get different portraits or sprays. And the first is going to be play 3 games. Second, achieve 70 takedowns and winning games. Third is win 6 games. And then the fourth is achieve 100 takedowns and winning games. The best part about this entire event is the El Guapo announcer.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
could have, Blizzard could
Yes.
have made bank off of this if they wanted to sell us in the pack, but they're giving it to us for free if we complete this quest. And if you guys haven't watched the video yet, you need to go watch the video right now because the El Guapo announcer is he is life. And I don't think I'll
Yes.
ever use anything else after I get my hands on this.
Yeah, that's totally fair. It is in some ways the correct announcer pack to play with.
Yeah.
Just like the Luchihuahua is the correct mount to ride. I mean, that's just the
So-
facts now.
Which quest line are you guys gonna do? That's the real question.
Oh well,
I-
Lunara obviously for me. I've never been as much of a Sonya fan, just in general. I don't know why. I should be, but and I don't of all the skins, I like hers the least. So I have to go Lunara.
You like Lunara's the least?
Sonia's the least.
Oh,
So
I like Lunara's the least. I don't really
Ew.
play either of them.
Ooh.
I like Sonia's portraits and sprays better, but I'm probably gonna go Lunara just because. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because I don't have to play Lunara.
no, of course not.
But
It's
but
a
I'm
flavor
gonna
thing.
be playing Lunara because of the rework or changes that's gonna be coming up on her.
You really should just look at the sprays and the rewards and kind of make your decision based on just strictly that.
Yeah.
And another point on that, though, is that so next year you'll be able to unlock the things from the other side. So something to think about. But you would have to wait a year. So it's a fair
It's a full
decision
year.
to make. The other thing I don't think we mentioned yet, too, is that these so there are going to be loot chests related to Nexomania, but those are actually also going to contain Suns Out, Guns Out summer event items again. So. And I felt like I did okay in that regard last year, except I am still missing the overly revealing Tychus skin, and I hope that drops.
Yeah.
'Cause I still need it.
So that brings up an interesting point. So this event's gonna be going on May 22nd through June 11th.
Mhm.
Does this mean they're not going to be doing another summer event? Because you would think if they were,
I assume this is the summer event.
I
but
think
it's
this
only
is the
but
summer
it's only
event.
going through June 11th. You would
Yeah,
you
it's
would,
not
might
the
be
whole
more.
summer.
huh?
More summer. Mm.
Because
There's more to come, Greg.
I hope so.
There's more to come.
But
This
I'm
is
just
like
saying-
the intro to summer event.
I'm just saying I would think if they were doing another summer event, then that's whenever the Suns Out Guns Out stuff would be available in chests.
Yeah, I'm
And-
kind of with you, Giz. I think
know.
this is gonna be the summer event, even though it's kind of on the earlier side. What they might be doing is paving the way to like later in the summer, having some like lore driven content come out.
That would be
although,
cool.
well, actually, we don't even know. Is this lore driven? Like, has
Oh, it better be.
Raven Lord
Yeah.
released this
wrestling
upon the
world.
universe?
El Guapo.
Yeah, I want to know the
El
story of El
Guapo
Guapo.
is the Nexus Lord
Yeah.
Oh,
for
wow.
this realm. Bam! Wow,
There you go.
we just solved that riddle.
And he's actually the most powerful one.
Yes. I mean, look
boy.
at him. So, which I honestly I'd be a little sad about just because I think I love the whole summer like swimsuit skin idea, and I think it could be great on a lot of other heroes. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get some more of those.
It is worth pointing out too. First off, I'm gonna pick Lunara because I love her stuff.
So we're all
Secondly-
doing Nara?
Secondly, whichever quest line you don't do, you can actually get the other person's stuff inside loot chests and
Oh,
whatnot.
Okay.
So don't worry about that. And then in the new Nexomania loot chests, you will get either a guaranteed Suns Out Guns Out item or a guaranteed Nexomania item.
Ooh, I didn't know that. So you don't have a guaranteed Nexomania every time. It can sometimes be
It-
Suns Out.
Didn't sound like it.
Huh.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So-
I would
it's
prefer
there's not a
guaranteed
ton of
Nexomania.
stuff for
True.
an
During
event.
Nexomania, all loot chests you earn through Progression Heroes Brawl or by spending gems will be Nexomania loot chests. The one exception, of course, is hero-specific chests. The limited time items shown above will have a chance to drop from Nexomania loot chests only. Items from last year's summer event will also be available in Nexomania loot chests.
I
So-
took that as that they're in the chests, but they're just kind of it's something that can drop but isn't guaranteed in everyone.
Huh.
And I assumed Nexomania content was guaranteed in everyone, but I'm not sure now.
I have one quick question for you all. Looking at the portraits here, the Nexomania portraits, who's the chicken in the bottom center? Any
Oh,
idea?
hang on. I'm just now seeing this. Yeah. I got nothing.
Well,
Maybe it's-
remember, they do a lot of portraits for other stuff.
They do.
Maybe that's like a Nazebo thing. Because remember, during the Mecha Storm event, we got a ton of portraits of mecha heroes that we didn't actually get skins for.
Yeah. And it looks like there's one for, I don't know if that's Jaina or...
Oh,
no,
in the
maybe that's
top
another
right?
Sonya. Maybe that's another Sonya one.
That's,
'cause
yeah,
the cat-
that's the stylized Sonya.
Yeah, yeah. But there's so much cool stuff in this, and I'm super excited for it. May 22nd through June 11th. So get those heroes close to leveling up and crank them out to get as much stuff as you can. It'll be a fun time.
Oh, here we go. I found it.
Okay.
I wasn't crazy. It's in the PTR notes that it actually clarifies it more than the website does. Loot chests guarantee at least one item from the Nexomania or Suns Out Guns Out events.
Ooh, okay. Well, I hope it's still weighed toward Nexomania, but we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, speaking of the PTR, there are some patch notes out here. I have not hopped in. I want to try the Diablo and Lunara stuff, but I've been having too much fun on characters I haven't played in a long time to hop in. So Lunara, Diablo, getting some adjustments here, but before that, there's also some other stuff coming in. As far as the user interface stuff, the MVP screen. Players can no longer vote for themselves at the end of matches.
Dang it.
Yeah, who else am I going to vote for?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Seriously.
So
No,
This
but
really doesn't matter at all.
of course, what are you talking about?
this does.
No, this
How am I
doesn't
going to get
matter
my
at all.
epics now?
Like,
My vote was always the epic vote.
Well, remember, the epic status is getting moved down by one now because you can't vote for yourself. So if
Bam.
your vote was always the epic vote, then you will get epic.
Well,
It
look at
doesn't
that.
matter, but I mean, it only matters as much as the combination system matters right now. I will say this though,
Exactly.
voting for your I know. Voting for yourself though, really, it did always kind of feel like liking your own posts, or like favoriting
upvoted
your own
myself.
items, upvoting yourself. Like, I mean, that's cool. Yeah, you kind of boost your visibility a little, I guess. But it's everyone can see you did it, right?
Yeah.
If you make the difference between like the legendary one, which was kind of awkward that like your vote would push you over that. So
Mhm.
I don't disagree with it, actually, jokes aside, but you're right, TBK. It only matters so much.
There's probably going to be less votes now because a lot of people just voted for themselves and then left. Now no one's going to be able to do that. So it's just, there's
I'm still not voting for the enemy team ever, just so you guys know. They don't deserve it. I don't even care if they deserve it.
It'll be interesting. Like, we need this. Honestly, the MVP screen really doesn't matter until they tie something to it.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing tied to the MVP screen now, which is in a lot of ways why there's usually not that many votes at the end of a game, unless something absolutely ridiculous happened and you just feel obligated to give those up feels to whatever person.
Say, you know what is
did
tied
incredible.
to them? Endorphins.
Yeah.
Feel good chemicals. It makes me
Little
feel
bit.
good.
Maybe.
I felt
Maybe a
tingly just thinking
Maybe a
about
little
getting upvoted just now.
A big change, however, though, coming to Battlegrounds, Infernal Shrines. So the Khazra at the southernmost mercenary camp on Infernal Shrines are now going to move into lane once they're captured, rather than path around the lane and attack opposing structures directly. That's pretty big. Because those things could sit down there forever and just hit that bottom tower. And you had to deal with them. Now they'll move into lane. That's nice. I like it. It's a good change.
Yeah.
But moving on to the Lunara and Diablo stuff. There's a lot to unpack here. You seem pretty excited about Lunara, TPK. So why don't you kind of walk us
I'm excited
through?
about both of them.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is sweet. This is good stuff.
So why don't
Are we-
you walk us
okay.
through?
Okay. I thought you were gonna say more things. I just got super excited. Lunara is kind of getting streamlined, actually, and I really like it. Her Wisp talent tier gone. Big old thumbs up to
Yep.
that one. That was one of the most feel bad talent tiers to get to on a hero. It's like, I'm level 4. Oh, Wisp stuff. They've actually wrapped it all up into one new level 1 talent called Sentinel Wisp, and they've actually changed the way Wisp works completely. So now it doesn't cost any mana. Its movement speed was increased by 100%. They reduce the vision radius from 7 to 6, but if you throw Wisp into a bush and it sits there for 2 seconds, it'll increase its vision radius by 75%. So they baked in like a version of a lot of the other talents just into the base Wisp itself.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a new level 1 talent called Sentinel Wisp that if your Wisp is in a bush for 5 seconds, it's a 200% vision radius increase, and it reveals the surrounding area. So like invisible units and whatever. So that's actually pretty cool. And it's another vision thing, and it's a level 1 talent that expands upon the Wisp vision if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the trade-off there. And there's also we were talking about this last night. There's a new level 1 talent called Hippity Hop.
Yes.
And it's and if you don't take basic attack, if you don't attack or take damage for 5 seconds, it increases your trait's movement speed by another 10%.
So like false stat.
Yeah, kind of like a tailwind type thing.
Sure. When she
so
already
that's
moves
pretty
faster,
cool.
so I mean that's
Yeah.
pretty good movement speed.
Yeah. And then of course a bunch of other talent changes. It's like there's a brand new level 4 tier. Some of the talents shifted around. There's a few new tiers as well. Giant Killer was removed and was actually built into a level 16 talent instead. There's several different build paths, and I'm not going to go through all the changes right now because there's a lot of stuff and we haven't had any sort of time to digest this really. So we'll definitely go over them a little more in depth once we get the chance to play on live. But she looks, it's a lot of little things, really.
Yeah.
Few new talents here and there, and then tweaks to the stuff, and then of course the biggest thing being the Wisps. So overall, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think she'll have some pretty interesting build paths, and I love what they did to the Wisp talent.
Yeah, and honestly, both of these hero changes, reworks, may be worth revisiting in Hero of the Week. And
Honestly,
in the
yeah.
future.
Especially the Diablo
Especially
one, honestly.
Diablo.
Yeah. So yeah, Multi, go ahead and take us through some of this Diablo stuff. There is some really big stuff there.
Really big stuff. It's actually it's kind of like Lunar in the sense that there are a lot of little things too, but there are some really big things in here. So Diablo is actually my favorite tank to play right now, but I can't wait to try this. I know I could on PTR right now, but life got in the way. Okay. Couple things to mention. First of all, there's so many number changes here in terms of ranges, mana costs. The damage is being shifted around on so many different things. I don't want to list off every single thing here for you guys because it's a pretty big rework. But one really important one to throw out there is that the Shadow Charge, so your Q, no longer grants armor, just flat out, but it does increase movement speed by 15% for 2 seconds, which I think in some ways could be even more useful on him. Now, I mean, of course, you're a little less tanky in these situations, so you'll see how that goes. But he's always been such a beefy guy that can just get around targets and body block. And I mean, you'll be able to set up your overpowers, your E even better. So I think there's going to be some merit to that. And I think that plays into some of the changes coming to his Fire Stomp as well. I don't know if they're intentionally trying to make him less of a tank and more of a like bruisery tank, but the W kind of makes me think so. So the big thing, if you haven't seen the video on this yet, I can't really fully describe how cool this ends up looking. But I will say, it now unleashes fire waves in a cone in the chosen direction rather than the 360-degree area around Diablo. And of course, to compensate for this, the fire waves have been reduced from 8 to 5. But multiple fire waves can now hit the same target. And in the video, it even shows it in kind of like a shotgun form, where if you're right within melee range, you can get all 5 of those on the target right away. As they're going out, though, they don't do as much damage as when they return. I won't rattle off the numbers there for you, but I will say that the returning waves, like as they come back into you, it's now counting as critical damage. And then now, of course, the Fire Stomp also heals Diablo for 125% of the damage dealt to heroes. So there maybe is some of the compensating for the tanking that you lost with the armor from the Q, making up for it a little bit in the W with self-healing. And honestly, like, I like that direction with Diablo because he's the Lord of Terror, and I want him to be terrifying and doing some decent damage and just mixing things up and wrestling people around. And these talents help you with that too. So there's a bunch of new ones, and there's a bunch of things moving around here, of course. But I will say, so they're doing some interesting things with the Q, for instance. They're taking it to where level 4 is called Sacrificial Soul, where stunning an enemy hero with Shadow Charge grants 5 souls and 15 armor for 4 seconds, while at 100 souls, increase this armor to 30. So you do get some of the armor back with that, but it's interesting because you have to stun the enemy hero and by bouncing them against the wall there. But then there's another talent I definitely have to point out, and it's at level 7, Eternal Flames. And this thing just looked so cool in the video. I don't think I'm going to take anything else. I don't think I can take anything else. So when Diablo stuns an enemy hero with Overpower or Shadow Charge, Fire Stomp's cooldown is reset. So again, I cannot do it justice over audio. You guys have to catch the video. But the way it just looks with him dashing in, stunning someone, getting the flames off a second time, and the way that perhaps the Fire Stomp hasn't even fully returned to you from the first one, so you can kind of like throw out different cones in different directions and just totally mix up a team fight. And then, I mean, there's if you're into wrestling and you've got your luchador skin for him, you've got Overpowering Nightmare at 16, gain 2 additional charges of Overpower with a 2-second cooldown between uses. So that's 3 total. Am I reading that right? You could just
potentially
wrestle.
3 with even more with some of the talents you can pick later on.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting rework. I like the direction they're going. I'm intrigued to see how it actually feels for sure. But I mean, they said at the top of the video they wanted the Lord of Terror to be more terrifying, and this to me accomplished that. But what do you guys think?
He looks like Raid Boss.
Yeah.
Honestly, when he does, you really need to watch the Spotlight video. Highly recommend it. It's on the official Heroes YouTube channel. But I think it's going to be interesting because he's going to play a lot differently than he used to. I don't think the build that everyone is going now will be near as viable, especially because of the loss of armor. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either. He seems to have traded a lot of his armor for health regen, or other ways to regen health.
Well, the build people are doing now, I was just going to interject, is not even possible in this. I didn't go over all the little changes to things moving from different tiers and new functionalities to some of the like smaller other talents, but it's so redone that the old build isn't even a thing.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. I love that there's a way for him to get souls from heroes now, and not just from lane minions, because that shores up a big weakness of, if you did get behind, it could be sometimes incredibly hard to farm souls back. Mm-hmm. And a Loso Diablo is a very weak Diablo, especially late game, and you don't want your tank Diablo having 5 to 20 souls when you're in a late game team fight, because he'll go down pretty quick. So
especially when you don't get armor off your Shadow Charge anymore.
Oh yeah, so I'm really excited about these changes, and the most exciting thing to me is that both the Lunara and the Diablo reworks will probably be live for the mid-season brawl, which makes me super happy.
That's cool,
because I want to see HGC games with like 3 and 4 Fire Stomps.
And 3 overpowers, and just,
oh my gosh.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a different play style. So it'll be interesting to see how comfortable the teams will be. But because this is coming to live next week, there's a really good chance there'll be a midseason brawl patch with this included.
Cool. I am excited for Oguapo and these. It's like Christmas in July, except there'll be Christmas in March next week.
Christmas in Cinco de Mayo.
Yes, Christmas in March next week.
May.
May?
May.
Yeah, it is May. It is not March.
It said March.
Both M's. Tomato, tomato, same thing. Were you wanting to talk about Ishbu's build? TBK?
Ishbu, who is the tank of Heroes Hearth Esports, I just kind of put this in our show notes to kind of give a little context to some of this stuff as we were talking about it. But he actually has put out a kind of tentative build for PTR Diablo. I'll have it in the show notes. And it is very, very different from what the current Diablo build is. It's actually revolves mostly around Firestomp. And interestingly enough, Lightning Breath, not Apocalypse, because Lightning Breath did get changed to where Lightning Breath actually slows the enemy as it damages now, which he believes pushes it up and over Apocalypse. Because for one, as you're slowing heroes, that's good for your team for chase. For two, it keeps them in your Lightning Breath for longer. And Lightning Breath does do a decent amount of damage and gives you unstoppable. So there's a lot of potential that we'll see, at least in his opinion, more of a balance between the two ultimates now instead of just 90% APOC.
That's
and I mean, you could get one of the new fire stomps off right before it, and if they are slowed and get hit by, let's say, all 5 of the returning fire waves while they're being breathed on by the lightning breath, that's a lot of damage coming out of your tank.
It is. In Apocalypse, it has a lot of setup to it. It's not an easy thing to get a bunch of great value out of.
It's still very womboable, though.
Yeah, it is wombo, but again, you gotta have that communication, which can be hard in Hero League, depending on where you're playing at. This is, kind of a guaranteed slow if you can hit people with this. You're not having to rely on somebody to set you up, which is nice. And it's, I still, the whole lightning breath thing, like, why is it lightning breath? I don't know.
It's from Diablo 2.
I know, but why isn't it fire breath?
Because lightning is hotter than fire. And he's the devil.
Well, then why isn't it lightning stomp?
You're right. It should be.
But it's okay. It still looks like fire, kind of, with lightning.
Yeah, it's a super cool effect that doesn't get used near enough.
He's a firebender that can also channel lightning. There you go.
Bam.
There's your avatar drop.
Bam. So the AMA happened today. As things do on Wednesdays, which is good and bad because there's always a lot happening for us. But Valia over at Hot Slogs was able to get some of the highlights in there. We're not going to go through all of these because, again, there's a ton of stuff. But we're just going to kind of hit on some of the highlights. You guys can check this out. We'll have it in the show notes. And then if you want to check all the stuff out, you can go to Reddit and search that stuff because there's a whole lot there. Whole lot.
Yeah, but holy crap, this was an amazing AMA. We want transparency, we want content. They freaking delivered on this. There is a ton of good stuff in this AMA.
Yeah. First up here, had a question from Chaos OS asking if there's any plans to redistribute the power in Asmodan's kit. Blizz Naaman responded here and said that they agreed that Asmodan's Globe of Annihilation Globe of Annihilation. There we go. Vastly overshadows the rest of his kit.
Gizmo.
Woo!
See, now I know the word was Laurel because you just
Annihilation. The Globe of Annihilation kind of overshadows everything right now, and they're wanting to spread things out. So Taste for Blood is going to become Asmodan's baseline quest. Asmodan's level 1 talents are going to alter the baseline quest, allowing you to add on additional bonuses or way to get stacks. Summon Demon Warriors are going to get a baseline damage aura similar to Burning Rage, and All Shall Burn won't last indefinitely, but instead is going to do more DPS over a shorter period. And then there's going to be a lot of new talents and stuff coming in. I guess Asmodan is one of the weakest heroes in the game, just baseline, without any talents. And it does kind of seem...
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's a big dude, and he's a big old demon, so he should be powerful, and they're going to bring him back up.
I will miss the indefinite All Shall Burn.
Yeah. But now they'll be dead,
Like,
so you don't need to keep doing it. They'll just be dead quicker.
Right. They'll just be gone.
That's right.
They will have already burned.
Yeah. Easy Target 101 asked if we could get any more details on the new roles, specifically tags that'll be used in the new system and how they'll complement each other. So they said they're still hard at work working on both those systems. This is Blizz Daybringer. But for roles, they're looking at 6 different roles: tanks, bruisers, melee assassins, ranged assassins, supports, and healers. They think that'll give enough bandwidth to classify the vast majority of heroes. But there's a lot of things that bring unique stuff and won't easily fit. And the example was Lost Viking. So they will have to make some decisions for those cases. As far as tags, he has personally been working on the tag system. It's very much still a work in progress, but they're wanting it to be easy enough to understand, but also give quality details about how each hero is going to play. They currently have about 15 major tags, and things like wave clear, burst damage, crowd control, etc. that can be attached to a hero. So these should be able to help just by kind of looking at their kit and stuff, help you kind of feel what role that they should be in the game, fill, which is nice. TBK?
So Senshadow asked, how do you feel about the lane mechanics patch as of December 12th, where they wanted to make the early game more meaningful? And did they collect stats on what it did to game outcomes? And that's actually a really interesting one, because looking back, it has been a while since the ammo changes, the laning changes all went into place. And Bliss Cooper responded that one of the goals was to make laning phase more meaningful. Laning is a great opportunity to showcase individual skill, especially on 3-lane maps. With the increased time before the first objective, they extended this part of the match to keep players laning a bit longer so they could do that showcasing of their skill. Snowballing has been always been a potential concern. We tend to look at snowballs from an overall health of the game, but also on a map-by-map basics. And he calls out Brax's Holdout as one of the more snowballing maps, and I think pretty much everybody can agree on that.
Not last night.
If you can, not last night. We did make a great comeback last night, and that was good. We were a post-10 team though, so all we had to do was survive. But when there is an objective that you can push to and potentially get the keep out of the first wave, that is definitely a potential snowball. So they're looking for potentially changes on the Zerg wave mechanic on Brassius specifically. The other side of things is that we want the early game to matter, but they want to balance it and not have the entire game rest on how you did in the early game. But then again, there's the balance of, do we want the entire game to rest on one level 20 team fight too? So it's a constant balance effort, and how to make that feel, but they seem to be fairly happy, other than a few edge cases with how those changes have worked. Let's see, and here's one of the PBMM I think we were talking about, Greg.
Right.
Ace Still asked, in the past, I believe you said before you implement it in game, you might consider showing us the UI, the effect that PBMM performance-based matchmaking looks like before it goes live, perhaps as a sanity check to catch any crazy outliers where the system was not working as intended. And then Alan DeBerry actually responded, this is the plan still. In a future update, not for a few more patches, they're going to add a tooltip to the end of the game screen that will let you see how the system thinks you did in various criteria that it's using to judge your performance. This will help you understand what areas you are doing well in and what areas you may need to consider focusing on. We will have the performance-based matchmaking rank point adjustment turned off for the initial release. We're just going to provide the information that the system would have used. During this beta period, we'll gather feedback from you guys and monitor how the stats are looking internally, and then we'll turn on the point adjustments in the subsequent season. This, to me, makes it sound like we will see performance-based matchmaking when the new ranked season goes live, but we won't actually get the effects of it until maybe like season 4 of 2018.
Like the actual point value effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you read this?
That's
Yeah,
kind of how I
but
read this too. I will say though, although I'm interested to see the criteria and how I'm matching up against, others and that sort of thing. I will say I'm a bit concerned by it because I don't want you, Captain Adab, to judge me on my performance. I'd be too self-conscious.
I just my thing with ranked and stuff right now, I've been waiting for this to come back out to really dive back into it. And for me, this I don't know if I'd necessarily want to jump back in this next season. Sure, it'd be cool seeing like, oh, this is how the performance-based matchmaking is going to work. But, say you're doing well and stuff, it's like, oh, this is how it's going to work. You would have gotten some great points here for doing, what you did in this area, and, you can work on this area, but we're not actually going to give you those points.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird phase.
It'll be a little weird, but after the debacle that was the original introduction of performance-based matchmaking, I think this is probably the safe route to take. And honestly, this is their best way to get live data and player feedback, because we know the PTR is not going to work.
Yeah.
For that, they're not going to get enough. They're not going to get enough people playing. They're not going to be able to do a long enough period of time. And so, kind of soft launching performance-based matchmaking should actually help, because then the community will be able to give feedback of, oh, this is a weird stat to be judging against for my performance for this hero, or this value seems off, or why was this weighted so heavily, or something like that, so that when it does actually launch and go live with most likely 2018 season 4, everyone will know what to expect. It will have been refined throughout season 3.
Yeah.
It should be better. And then finally for me, Crimson BZD asks the question near and dear to my heart: what is the future of multi-class heroes? And Blizz Cooper responds with the knife in the heart of multi-class was really an exploration for us in talent design. How far we can let a player alter the direction of their hero through the talent system. When we update our new role system, we're planning to remove multi-class as a category. Varian would most likely fit into a couple of the new roles, most likely tank and bruiser. There would be a handful of other characters who fit into multiple categories, like Karazim, Zarya, are strong candidates for this.
Well, but it's just a recategorization.
The multi-class dream, guys.
I don't think so.
No, this is just it's symbolic multi.
It is. It is.
Rip the symbolic multi-class dream. I think they kind of proved that it's much more of a talent thing when they redid Varian.
Oh yeah.
And especially, I think they could easily do that with another hero like a priest, or please give me a feral druid, Blizzard. But
because it did feel like multi-class was a thing that changed at 10 with the heroics coming out, and when they changed that, when they brought it to 4, you're right, it does feel more like just different talent builds that are hugely impactful on him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, it seems like some of these heroes are going to be categorized into a couple different categories, and tank and bruiser in the case of Varian, for instance. So I mean, he's still multi-role essentially, just not multi-class. So I think you're gonna have to get that multi-class icon, that's in the game, and tattoo it on yourself, TBK.
It's going to be interesting though because say Varian will have tank and bruiser. We'll say Zarya. I don't know, or bruiser support.
Hmm.
Yeah,
What's that
probably.
going to do to the new quick match rules?
Yeah, see, I don't
So
know.
my guess is they're especially it'll be a little different with the new rule system, but my guess is they're going to have to do exceptions again. And my hope is that from at least variant standpoint, they will classify him as a bruiser.
Yeah,
And then
that's
he can go tank if he wants to in quick match, but you will have another tank in case. I think it, I've been thinking it over quite a bit, and I think that's probably the best case scenario is that you assume that Varian will not tank.
yeah,
And I think that especially
And
since a little later they talk about tank being overly picked
yeah.
anyways and needing to
Mhm.
buff the others a little bit. So I think that's really the only way you can handle it gracefully for a quick match.
Yeah, and then based on that logic, you would never really assume that Zarya is a support, even if maybe she's in that category as like a.
Mhm.
But I mean, I would not want to queue up where my support is the Zarya. Like, no, no, not so much. Anyway, so moving on though, did you want to knock out the Medivh one real quick, TBK? Was it interesting to you? I don't Medivh, so
Oh,
that one's up to you.
This one's kind of interesting because it's not solely about Medivh. The Shadow, oh, him again, asks if Circle of Protection makes Arcane Explosion 3 to 5 times as strong. Is it possible to balance Medivh builds that have both those talents? Matt Villers actually answered this one, and it's more about talent stacking and what the role of stacking in design is. And he talks about how normally they like to allow talents to stack organically because it's kind of a feel good thing for the talents to stack, and it's a synergy thing in some ways for you, the player, to kind of figure out, oh, this could work really well with this, or this is a real unique way to combine this and this. So they said a lot of times they like to err on the side of let it stack by default because they don't like to do a bunch of extra exceptions and rules.
Hmm.
But he does say they are aware and have to be very careful about the multiplicative synergy of what we often call stacks on stacks. Um,
I hope they call it that
Stacks on stacks on
at the
stacks.
office.
yes, stacks on stacks.
Yeah.
At best, having too much hard synergy can make talent choices feel limited, and at worst, it could limit space for the live design team to make needed adjustments if there are multiple talents that depend on another one to be effective. So it's definitely something they're aware of, and they seem to be getting better at it as time goes on. But it just kind of an interesting comment, not specifically on Medivh, but just kind of stacking talents in general.
Also, congratulations to Matt Villers on his first ever Reddit comment. I have about 4 total, so you're catching up to me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Alright.
no, that's all interesting stuff. Thank you, TBK. Thank you. Moving on though, so back to Blizz Neyman is responding to Janalo and Schunder in Germany, and the question was, how concerned are you about mobility creep? Which I think is a question we've said several times on this show. Okay, Neyman writes back, we talk about mobility creep and power creep in general a lot as a design team, and here's our take on it. So kind of paraphrasing these, they do want to push the envelope of what new characters can do, and they do it to make them feel interesting, but then also balanced and fair as best as they can. But there are some that pushed it a little too far, and they've actually recently made balance changes to Genji, Hanzo, and Tracer to reduce the mobility and force them to be more exposed when they try to do their thing. And that's true. We kind of already guessed that was the approach that they were going on those. So it's good to actually see it written out here, though. And he points out specifically some chromie changes in the future. They're starting to experiment with ideas like pulling in her range further, but reducing her cast time and making her W visible to enemies. It's all in early development. So Anyway, they're just generally always keeping their eye on it, and this is good to hear, of course, because for a little while there, especially like when we got Genji right into Diva and some of these others with the mobility, it did seem a bit much. So, yeah, I think it's good that it's on their radar. Obviously, it always was, I'm sure, but it's good to see this specifically, and that perhaps other Overwatch heroes down the road aren't going to go too crazy either. So, anything to add on that, you guys, before I move on?
Rip Chromie with her W becomes visible.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
I guess if
Yep.
they reduce her casting time, though, it just
Yeah,
depends.
to make up for it.
Mhm.
Even so, you could dodge him. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so this next one is the heartbreaker for me. So, Spazzo965 writes, a long time ago, it was mentioned that the team would like to get the Heroes branch of the SC2, StarCraft 2 editor, out to the public. Is a publicly available editor something we still might see down the line? And then Alan Beery, Captain Adab himself, responds, it's something that we've definitely discussed in the past. Of course, we've seen a lot of awesome content created by the communities in Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. I personally worked on parts of the custom map support for both games, but it's not something we are actively working on for Heroes right now. Maybe we can revisit in the future. So, first of all, I feel like that first line, it's something that we've definitely discussed in the past. I don't know if this was like a jab at the Browder days, but it feels like it's been that long since we've heard about it at all. And it seems like maybe his leadership direction is pushing away from this, and which is something I would caution against, because to me this reads as like a very polite no. But when you read the line, of course we've seen a lot of awesome content created by the communities in Warcraft 3. I think content we could actually say was the entire MOBA genre was born out of Warcraft 3 custom map support. So this game we've been talking about for 3 years wouldn't even really be a thing if it wasn't for the fact that they allowed people to do that previously. So we definitely still want it. That's where I'm at with it.
I think what he's saying is just there's way more important things to be working on right now.
And that's probably true, but I mean,
who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like
it.
to.
Even if they released it with like minimal support, I would still like it.
Yeah.
So just to kind of play around and learn stuff and figure out stuff, because trust me, like even if they released it with like fully minimal documentation, it's still underneath the StarCraft 2 editor. And so I guarantee you within a month or two, you'd have community guides and community tutorials and all sorts of stuff out for it, that would help you get ready to go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we shall see. Maybe one day. Okay, and I'm going to skip one. I'm going to move on to the Vikings, though. So when can we expect a Vikings update? And Blizz Naaman writes back, we love the Lost Vikings and think they're important to the game as a whole, as they exemplify how Heroes of the Storm is unique among MOBAs. I can't give you any specifics on a date or scope of a rework since we haven't decided yet, but here's what we can share. So, and a lot of this I really do agree with. They don't like that the Vikings' primary function is to be in all lanes to soak experience, but they do like it when the Vikings work together and think the coolest part of the hero is having the 3 units that combined are stronger than the individual pieces. And they'd like to see them be more accessible, kind of easier to play, because there's a small section of the player base that loves the Vikings, but they're not a popular hero due to their power feeling hidden. And, of course, they've got the high micro demand to even pull it off in the first place. So, they want to see more interactivity and plays that can be made with their kit. And so anyway, it seems to me like when I read this, it seems like it's perhaps a ways off, because not only can they not give a date, but they haven't really decided on anything yet. If we were a little closer, I feel like the answer may have been even more vague than this, because sometimes when they're right about to do something, they'll say, oh, we've got some cool things coming, but not really go into some of the details as to why. But I do think this is the right direction with them. I'm maybe picturing a future in which the 3 Vikings can do interesting CC stuff together. Like I kind of picture maybe like Olaf pushing someone back into Eric, who does some extra like slowing somehow. And I don't know. There could be some interesting stuff there where like they're working together in a team fight for super interesting. You'd still have to micro to pull that off, but play that's not just splitting and soaking lanes. I don't know. I think there's a lot to explore there, and I know none of us here on this show are diehard Vikings fans, but stuff like that could make me try them out some more, maybe.
Yeah. It's interesting because, they say they don't like the Vikings' primary functions to be an all lanes to soak experience, but that's kind of what they were initially built for. Like that was the whole idea around them, is that they could do that.
Well, sure.
But this game's evolved so much, I think they've realized that can hurt maybe what they're wanting to do in future maps, or just it does weird balance things. I loved the Vikings when they first came out, but they really are just kind of, you just don't see them anymore, except for like the occasional person who is just like who they play.
Right. And the one thing it does enable is, now that you're soaking in all the lanes, the other 4 heroes can just roam and take objectives and gank. And so, I mean, I think when they're in a game, it opens up some interesting choices for that team to pull off, but it is kind of weird. Mm-hmm. And I just think they get pigeonholed into that strategy a little bit. So,
yeah. We got one here from Critic Kitten. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, who's that? I haven't heard of that.
But he said, has the team given any serious thought to making these larger balance patches more of a regularly scheduled thing, so as to help provide continual smaller tweaks to heroes that don't need reworks but are still dipping somewhat in the popularity or success? Blizz as Jackson. That's a cool name. How Jackson are you? Or how Blizz are you? I'm Blizz as Jackson.
Could it be Arizona?
I don't know.
Arizona Jackson?
Maybe.
Which is also a great name. I'm Arizona Jackson. Anyway.
He's so cool now.
Yes.
This is a really long response, so I'm not going to get into it a lot. You can kind of go and check this one out. But they go into kind of how there's pros and cons to all of their kind of different types of patches that they do, whether it's small numeric balance changes, complete reworks, or some smaller talent updates. And really it's just kind of them going in and making sure that they have the right tool for the right situation. And they think that they can do some more small balance number tweaks and smaller talent updates more often. But again, it's just, they have to be careful with that stuff. But they also threw out there, they're currently working on a similar update for Stukov, which should be similar in scope to Kael'thas. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, he needs a little talent diversity.
Yeah. Next one from Chaos OS again. How does the balance team feel about Varian's level 4 diversity? So, of course, Varian got changes not too long ago with his ultimates moving up to level 4. And they're using gave us some stats. So Taunt right now is about a 75% pick rate with a 50.3% win rate. Colossus Smash, 17% pick rate with pick rate with 48% win rate. And then Twin Blades, 8% pick rate, rip, with a 47.8% win rate.
Lowest win rate too. Huh.
Most of that win rate is me, guys.
Yeah, like 40%. You are 7 of the 8%.
Yeah. Ideally, they want to get it to where Taunt is picked about 50% of the time, and then maybe 30-20 on the other 2 DPS specs. So they have some plans to give both Colossus Smash and Twin Blades some more health in the coming patch, but they just can't give a date yet. But they have been testing stuff out. And then Eierhond. What's your philosophy? Earhond? Lurhond? Is that an L?
Before you get into that one, real quick, it might be an L. I'm not sure. I just want to say one thing about the Varian piece. And that, again, as a community, we've been asking for, some visual, like, be able to actually see some of these stats. Transparency was the word I was looking for. And this, I cannot imagine more transparency than giving us, like, pick rate versus win rate on specific talents like that. super interesting that they even did that, honestly.
It is.
They did it several times during
Yeah.
this AMA. Actually, it was kind of like a peek behind the curtain.
It really was,
almost.
yeah.
What is beyond the veil of
Who
Blizzard
knows?
and their pick rates?
But yes, getting back to their Hand, our Hand, everyone's Hand. What's your philosophy regarding giving small buffs to weak heroes more frequently, and why is it not happening too often? Blizz Daybringer responded to this, and he mentioned it's been a very hot topic lately, and we have heard this a lot. Why doesn't Rain or Val, all these people get these smaller, number of buffs just so we see them played more? And he kind of went into the different things that go into that. So one, stability. Most heroes are sitting between a 45 and 55% win rate right now. 70% of the roster is actually between 48 and 52% right now. If they inject too many changes at once, all this stuff, they have a really hard time narrowing down cause and effect of any particular change. Because as we've talked before, every change has a ripple effect in here. Just because you boost somebody's damage, that may synergize with somebody else really well now, and it can change a lot of stuff. So that's why they can't do a ton at once. Perception versus reality. He talks about, he comes home and reads Reddit and sees 10 threads on the front page about frustration surrounding Hanzo and how overpowered he is. He immediately runs to the data dashboard and sees that his win rate's sitting at 46%. So what's the correct course of action? 46% win rate? Technically, he should get buffs, right? But it's almost an impossible task to decide, what to be doing with that. So, and then the last one, Razor Edges. They have a handful of heroes that walk on Razor's edge of balance. Each member of the live balance team has been working on the game since before it was launched, and they've seen a lot of situations where a very small number of buffs can turn to a borderline hero into a nightmare. He says, let's look back at crowd favorite Chin. There was a time when Chin was completely unbearable to play against in certain compositions. He still is. His design is very binary in that you can either deal with him and his trait, or you can't. This is something they can't really fix through tuning and need to go into much deeper design changes to fix. So they have a handful of these types of heroes who they're very much on their radar. But all this said, they definitely listening and are trying their best to keep bringing balance changes and design updates as frequently as possible. I think that's a really good answer to that one, because it.
Oh yeah,
I think we've all said it. Why can't just. What happened to Nubarak? What happened to his health changes? They disappear.
There you go, right?
But
No, I
it
think
makes
the
a
most
lot of
interesting
sense.
point- It does make a lot of sense, and the conversation about perception versus reality was a super interesting look behind the curtain, because I could see that being a real conundrum a lot of times.
So interesting stuff there. TBK.
Yeah, I just kind of want to reiterate too on what you just said. Perception versus reality. This is such a big deal, and I can't imagine being a game designer and having to deal with it's balanced, but Reddit says it's not. People are complaining, but he should be really getting buffs, or people say he's terrible, but he's got a 56% win rate. Like, what is going on? And it's so funny that perception, and I was talking to some of the developers about this actually while I was over at Dorm. Perception can linger several months even after a patch has actually brought them back to a good spot, but the perception of them is they're bad, or the perception of them is they're amazing. And so people pick, like, I think they were talking about like Li Ming in one case. They nerfed her down to the ground and her win rate was 46%, yet she was still picked and banned almost constantly.
Because people hadn't reacted to it yet.
Yeah, it's just really crazy to kind of have to shift into that mindset and think data versus perception. And sometimes you actually have to balance on perception instead of data. It's crazy.
And the weird thing skewing perception too is that it's human nature to better remember things that you didn't like and went poorly. That's also why you get more people commenting on things that they don't like rather than complimenting things that they do.
Yeah.
And in this case, that goes for both ends. Like you remember the time that the super overpowered Kael'thas blew you up for 3 months straight years ago. I still remember that.
Or Chen.
Their example of Chen.
We have all been playing long enough that Chen used to be God.
Unstoppable.
The flying kick would root you, and then you would get a crit auto attack after it that would just wreck.
Not only root you, but you'd get placed on the other side of them as well, so you can set up body blocks after them.
And there were a lot less stuns in the game at that time too.
But notice how we remember all of these instances, and not as well the times in which these heroes were just balanced and okay in the meta. Yeah. So I mean, it's an interesting thing. I find this particular concept very strange.
Fascinating.
I like the way they go about, balancing on perception as well, because it kind of goes to the mobility creep thing right now. With Hanzo, Genji that they've been talking about, just trying to make them feel less punishing. But still, but they're bringing other things up to try and help, either help their win rates or kind of keep it where it's at. It can't be an easy thing to do at all.
Yeah. So moving on a little bit, Ursidon asked what the plan was for newer players in the game and how will you relieve the pressure of nearly half the roster being 10K gold. This was actually a really good question.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot that's expensive. So Alan actually answered this and said, right after Heroes 2.0 launched, we slowed this down because of all the other changes that happened, lowering of gold prices. We've since picked this back up and plan to continue to be vigilant in reducing gold and gem prices for existing heroes. I should also call out, we don't simply do this based on time in the game. So I think League has a depreciation system where every so often their characters will drop price. And so he's actually saying they're not going to do it this way. There are other factors that go into the decision about which heroes to lower gold prices on. Like we might be more aggressive on gold price drops for newbie friendly heroes while being a bit slower on complex or high skill floor heroes. We're definitely keep looking for compelling ways to offer extremely low cost hero bundles, or in some cases just outright giving away a hero or two. I would love to see once a year those mega bundles brought back. And
those are
a
incredible.
Big new player event, do some sort of cross promotion with another Blizzard game or some big promotional push and be boom, mega bundles are back for a month. Mm-hmm. I would love to
like a cross promo with WoW and Battle for Azeroth and the Alterac Valley map in this game. That'd be fine. Yeah, let's do that.
They could even bring those back with the Black Friday stuff that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
A really good Black Friday that we had a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Also from Zeratul in Germany. Why Zeratul is in Germany? I'll be darned, but there he is.
I do not want to visit Germany right
now. He asks, are there any plans to help melee assassins out? Maybe even by giving more support to cleanse again to enable these heroes. So Blizz Jackson answers this and says,
Arizona Jackson.
This is Arizona Jackson.
Right.
I think this is more of an issue with the current meta and the range of some ranged heroes, and less of a problem with melee assassins. We've recently nerfed the auto attack range of Hanzo and Phoenix, which should help with this feeling of being poked out all the time. And this is interesting because melee assassins, at least in this meta, have fallen off some. Mm-hmm. And there was even some people talking in the chat about it. But he says, as a counterpoint, there are quite a few melee assassins that are performing very well at high levels of play. And so again, he gives us a peek behind the curtain and gives us actual statistics of win rates. And these are based on Diamond Plus with the hero at level 10 or higher in Hero League. Because that was the criteria that all these numbers they were given us during the AMA were for. So he says the melee assassins that are performing very well at high level of play include Kerrigan, with a 56% win rate, Samuro with a 55.4, Thrall with a 54.3, Maiev with a 53.8, Valera with a 52.1, and Malthael with a 52. Then he says, not all these heroes are seen a ton in the current meta, but they are performing very well. So I'm personally concerned that this is largely a perception issue about it feeling bad to be poked to death by ranged assassins, and less of an issue of melee assassins actually being weak. Also, to answer the second part, we don't currently have plans to give other supports cleanse. It's tricky to simply buff these melee assassins to get them to see more play, as they can easily become overpowering in their games, especially if the meta shifts more in their favor and they become more popular. So again, another perception thing where a lot of these melee assassins that we don't see super often do have very healthy, and in some cases even more than healthy win rates, but we don't see them super often. And so the perception issue is that they're bad, whereas the meta may just have dictated that they're not as good for play, not that they're bad per se.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interestingly, Samuro has always been a fairly high win rate hero, even if you go to hot slogs and such. And speaking of stats, yet again, some more raw numbers in this one too. So very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Freaking Samuro, man, that guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
Tell you the hard one to believe on here is Valera.
I do like his rework though.
Yeah.
I do like his rework quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Alco Raiden. It's like the regular Raiden with an Alco on it. Is it true you're moving away from specialized heroes and releasing more rounded ones for the foreseeable future? And Matt Villers actually says, basically, yes. Different heroes have different capabilities, and it's important to provide a meaningful answer to the question, what is this hero's role on a team, and who are they competing for a spot with it? To offer a concrete example, Deckard and Stukov are heroes who reflect the shift in philosophy we've been talking about. Both of them bring reasonable levels of burst and sustain healing to the table, as well as powerful CC and utility. But beyond those similarities, they also bring very different things to the team. This is the goal we're aiming for when we talk about making heroes less sharply specialized. We're not going to stop giving heroes unique playstyles with strengths and weaknesses, but we think it's important you can make meaningful choices in draft based on your composition and the battleground, and not to put so much emphasis on rock, paper, scissors, especially because from a drafting perspective, they don't want the game to be like basically lost in draft because you rock, paper, scissors the other team.
Yeah. That's never a good feeling in any game. So absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. Moving on, we've got from Kilma in Spain. Daybringer responded to this one. It was the question, how do you prioritize what heroes to balance first? And I'm just going to read them off real quick. Number 1, newly released heroes, of course, making sure that they're in good shape. Number 2, hot heroes. So, if someone's coming off really strong, let's focus on them.
Sylvanas.
Yeah, there you go.
Hot heroes.
The hottest hero for you. That's why you wanted the summer skins. You want to see Bikini Sylvanas. I get it now. Number 3,
sun would
heroes.
probably be murder on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Again, a second or third murder. Okay. Number 3, they're looking for heroes outside of their band. And by that, they mean anyone outside that 45 to 55% win rate band. Looking to see who's outside there. Number 4, dusty heroes. When they're super old and just have old kits, they got to go in and look for them. And then the 5th one they do take into consideration is passion. So, if they feel like there's some fun and easy changes that they can help out heroes and make them more interesting and more flavorful toward the characters, then they're excited for those too. So this is about, I think like if we had sat down and had a conversation about this topic, we could have probably come up with that this was more or less their approach to this, but it's kind of cool to see it actually listed out in this way. So that was pretty cool. So the next one from Truffass in Germany is talking about, and this kind of gets into our discussion that we had a little bit earlier, but the question was, some support heroes like Tyrande and Tassadar are not able to heal solo, but we saw changes to the double support lineups. What are the plans for those off support heroes? And so then Blizz Cooper comes in with, again, more discussion about the role distinctions that they're going to release, and that they're going to split it out between healers and supports as different roles. And then the current thinking is that characters like Tyrande and Tassadar would be flagged as support specifically, and then thus would be treated differently in quick match matchmaking than someone like Stukov or Malfurion, which I believe is already the case, right? Isn't that technically already in the QM algorithm? I believe so. Regardless,
something like that. Yeah, because they reclassified some as
yeah,
support and healers, and that's going to be official when they switch to the new role system.
yeah, it'll actually be face up then. So, which is good, but it seems like when it comes to queuing these up, and this is again probably true now, but it'll be interesting to see it actually when they make the change. They're saying that they're okay with compositions that utilize the support like Tassadar, Zarya, Medivh, Tyrande, that sort of thing. But they're, of course, better in conjunction with an actual healer. So they think that teams with some kind of support healer combination could lead to some fun and strategic gameplay situations. And that's kind of how it plays out, even in, I mean, if we see any of these heroes, it's usually in conjunction with a true healer, even in HGC. Here's the dorm, that sort of thing. But they do specifically call out Tyrande. I found this one interesting. So they talk about how, and this is a direct quote, Tyrande's current playstyle and talent builds can be really unique and compelling for certain players, but she doesn't really have a role in the current meta. And that internally they're exploring some design changes to her that could make her more viable as a solo healer. So that's cool. I feel like she's had some periods in which she was a bit more of a solo healer than not, but I don't think we've ever had one in which I truly felt like she could fully pull it off. And I think that's an interesting direction with her. So I don't know if they would add more talents to some of her other abilities to add little tiny heals to maybe the owl. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So they get into that a little bit there too. They wanted to still have set up in the scouting. And all this, there's a bunch more details about her specifically, so you guys can check it out. But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad to see yet again another, some more visibility on what this change with the roles are going to be. This is the most we've heard of it, I think, ever.
Yeah,
this AMA.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, them potentially considering fully moving Tyrande to a healer or fully moving Tyrande to an assassin.
I hope they go here. I think it could be fun.
I would honestly, just based on this list that you talked about, I would love to see Tyrande go full healer and allow them to do a few more unique things with her kit, and then have Tassadar go full assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's been a talk before of Tassadar turning into a mage instead.
Yeah, I am 100% for that. I think he's really awkward, and he's super hard to balance because of what he does. So I feel like let's just embrace it. And it, from a lore fantasy perspective, I think full assassin mage fits Tassadar a lot more anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe he could be a multi-class that's kind of still support and mage, but leans heavier on the, I guess it would be called ranged assassin category, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm going to skip one. I'm going to move on to one I'm interested in here. Lucky Lightning writes, does the potential viability of support Abathur concern the balance team? Will Abathur be balanced around this role in the future? So, of course, we get Arizona Jackson coming back here saying that personally I think it's cool that solo support Abathur has emerged as a fringe strategy. One of the exciting things about playing and watching games in this genre is when these very unique heroes and these strategies have some success. So they're hesitant to immediately remove it until it becomes a larger problem. But long term, Abathur isn't considered a primary healer for the team. And that's kind of true over the course of the history of the game anyway. So if this became the way to play him, then that would be a problem. So we won't say never, but there's a low chance that Abathur would be balanced around being a primary healer in the future. And we have no plans for it. So, and that's true. I mean, I'm not as much of a StarCraft guy, so I don't know a ton about the backstory of Abathur, but it's kind of true. He doesn't feel as much like a healer as he does, map control-y and everything else that he does that's really cool. So But I mean, I agree. I think it's been kind of cool to see that. Although the fact that him solo supporting is a thing kind of speaks poorly about the state of sports in general right now. But that could be a whole other discussion.
Well,
I don't know. So,
well,
uh
it's funny you mentioned that, Multi, because Lucky Lightning also wrote in saying, why did the balance team determine that nerfing the top 2 healers was the correct way to restore diversity rather than buffing the healing output of less popular options? Ooh, what?
And what was the response to that one?
So a lot of people on the balance team had slightly differing views, but they all worked together. Kind of the 2 big things were they were both overperforming and outclassing other healers in the game. Stukov and Malfurion were dominating drafts and winning more than their counterparts by 3 to 4%. And they're being very careful not to power creep the healers, as we do not want to step back into a mandatory double support meta. When it comes down to it, ending a game in a timely manner relies on players actually dying. Didn't they? Just a little tidbit.
We need people to die, guys.
They released the win rates for supports, and again, this is Hero League Diamond and above, Hero level 10 plus. The top, very interesting, Ariel at 54.8%. Deckard 52, Alex Straza 52, Lily 52, Ana 52, Brightwing 51.8, Morales 51, Lucio 50.7, Malfurion 50, Rhaegar 50, Karazim 49.9, Uther 49.7, and Stukov 47.8. So they're really pretty close in terms of viability. They said they may have hit Stukov a little hard and underestimated the 5% PvE buff they gave Ariel.
Oh yeah.
So those are.
But perception is Ariel sucks.
Yes, it is.
Right.
It's
We
true.
haven't adjusted to it yet. This makes me want to play her like right now.
Yeah.
It is super interesting.
Yeah.
Like I'm still just kind of blown away because we've never really had the data like that just thrown in our face.
No.
Of boom, hey, yeah, this is a real thing.
So we're going to be going over here quite a bit. Is there any other like last big things either of you wanted to hit on real quick?
A lot of the remaining ones, at least here, are
It's hero
pretty
specific
hero-specific. I skipped a couple of those even myself.
Yeah.
But I know we had a particular question that TBK had.
TBK did ask a question and get an answer. I actually asked them, and it's not included in this article for some weird reason, but it was an awesome question.
If
And
I do say so myself.
Do you have any plans to take it past at ults with extremely low pick rates? Because this is a really legitimate thing. They actually talked about Gul'dan, his Reign of Destruction getting either changed or outright replaced. And that makes sense because it's not really good in basically any situation. But then I kind of compared like Kel'Thuzad's Frostblast. Frostblast is technically a really good ult.
Yeah.
But the problem is it can't compete with the massive cooldown difference of Shadowfisher. And so Daybringer actually responded with, we normally do a pass on these every few months. Unfortunately, sometimes our hands are bound as some of these disparities cannot be fixed with tuning due to, again, perception. We feel some heroics that are overlooked are actually extremely powerful, but maybe not meta at the moment. Past examples of this are Mighty Gust and Twilight Dream. That's kind of interesting thing, and I totally remember that because there was one patch when Tranquility got nerfed a little bit, and then people were just like, holy crap, Twilight Dream is incredible. Or Mighty Gust, holy crap, we can set up so many like win conditions and stuff with this heroic.
Earthquake would be another one of those, I'd say.
Earthquake's definitely one of those.
Oh yeah. That went through its own little phase for a while.
Yeah.
And then he also says design. Some heroes have one heroic that enables a play style that is core to the hero. And I would add that Kel'Thuzad's Shadowfisher is probably one of those because it's just such a comboable thing, and Kel'Thuzad is such a combo mage.
And the cooldown issue you mentioned.
And the cooldown issue, yeah. We've been getting better at this on the hero design side, but we still have some outliers that we'd like to eventually fix through design changes. And so those, of course, as they mentioned earlier, are much, much bigger changes than just a simple balance patch numbers tweak. Those are potentially art having to get involved, lots more QA time, potentially swapping out a full ability, potentially changing what an ability does completely.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And again, guys, there's a lot that you can go over here. This is 2 huge AMAs within like the last month, which is nuts, and I hope it continues. I do. But let's move on to HGC or competitive this week, or high level Heroes of the Storm. All right, so there was no HGC this week, but there was Heroes of the Dorm, and TBK got to go. I couldn't go. Multi couldn't go. So I'm salty about it, but
it's pretty cool.
We know. But he got to do an interview with Tyler Rosen, and we will hop into that. And I haven't listened to this all the way, so I get to hear some cool stuff too.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to HGC Talk. This is TBK, and I am here with Trent, who is a writer, esports consultant, and blogger at Heroes Hearth. Good old Heroes Hearth. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining and coming on to shed some light about some of the new stuff for HGC this season.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to set this up. It's definitely some interesting things that I feel like not a lot of people fully understand. So I'm excited to be able to help educate your listeners on business side things for the HGC.
Yeah, and that stuff is really kind of intriguing to me. And like you said, there's not necessarily a ton of official information, at least not easily accessible. So anything that can help in that regard is good. But before we jump in real fast, I know I gave the brief intro. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for the hot scene?
Yeah, definitely. So I got my start in esports actually writing for Riot Games. I covered the LCS for 2 years as a journalist. And then when HOTS was in beta, my wife got me access to the beta for Valentine's Day because I have the best wife ever. And
sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah. It's basically the best. And so I fell in love with the game, wanted to commit to it, and I started out as a coach for some amateur teams, wrote for Gosu Gamers for a little while, and then have been kind of doing the freelance thing for a while, doing stuff on my own blog and on Heroes Hearth, just kind of breaking down how the business side of esports works, how sponsors and ownership and things like that function, and then doing just recaps and things for big tournaments.
Awesome. That's great. So let's dive right in here to our topic then. Can you explain to our listeners how the
We can edit the audio. There's that. Just
I'm
the
really
only
disappointed.
people who are going to know are the 17 in chat. So just you guys can't say anything.
This is pretty awkward, actually. Okay. I mean,
so Giz, the edited real one is in the in that folder. I have it as an MP3 if that works for you.
Yep, I can pull it up. You guys aren't going to be able to hear it, which is fine.
That's fine. I'll listen to it later. Are there any Cliff's notes I need to know, TBK? We're not going to have a ton of time to react to it. Critic Kitten, I regret joking that I didn't know you earlier because you're in the chat.
You regret joking that? You didn't know he was in the chat?
you can say
I knew he was in the chat. Oh, yes. Anyway, cool. All right, well. This will be an easy cut in the audio version because you'll just be like, you'll say, and here it is, and then we'll play the real one. So
yes. Trent Murray.
That'll be good.
Yes.
I even listened to this one, then I downloaded the wrong one. Yep.
That's true. I could, actually.
All right.
I was earlier. I got like halfway through it.
It's really interesting interview.
Here,
Tyler's a good dude.
here we go. After I change my audio stuff in the computer.
You figured it out, XXL Epic. You figured it out.
No, that's right.
HGC Talk. This is TBK, and I am here with Trent, who is a writer, esports consultant, and blogger at Heroes Hearth. Good old Heroes Hearth. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for...
No.
Oh,
Here.
Hey guys, this is TBK, and I'm here with Tyler Rosen, which is nice that people warn me because he looks exactly like his brother Adam.
I might be Adam, and you'll never know.
It's true. Like, it could be completely fooling me right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about TESPA, since this is Heroes of the Dorm and our big collegiate Heroes event. So first off, why don't you tell everybody what is TESPA and what's you guys' mission?
Sure. So TESPA is one of the world's leading college esports organizations. When I look at TESPA, I really look at two big pillars. The first is our community pillar. So on the community side of things, we have in-person communities all around North America on college campuses. Today, we have over 260 of those chapters, and each chapter is a community that celebrates gaming, hosts big LAN parties, hosts events, and really celebrates building that local kind of grassroots community.
Sure.
If we were a Greek organization, we would actually be top 10 in the world by size right now, which is crazy, and in my mind, just a testament to how quickly esports is growing and how much energy there is on the student level for everything related to gaming. On the competitive side of things, obviously you're familiar with Heroes of the Dorm, but we host 6 other competitive leagues also. This year we are on track to give out over $1 million in scholarship prizing.
Wow.
So one of our core values is trying to put students first and giving students a path to discover their futures and really seize that future through gaming. I think gaming has a really special place in all of our lives, and a lot of times students may not have that opportunity to pursue that passion or pursue that dream. So a lot of what our programming centers around is giving students those pathways to do what it is they love, celebrate gaming, find connections to others through that passion, and see where it leads them, not only in their college career, but afterwards also.
Awesome. So, of course, we're here at Heroes of the Dorm. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the history and the evolution of Dorm and what it's meant to you guys? Because this has kind of been a passion project of yours.
Totally. Yeah, so this is the 4th year for Heroes of the Dorm. It's kind of crazy to think about. It feels like just yesterday we hosted the very first event. But the very first Heroes of the Dorm was back in 2015. Adam and I and the rest of the team had a crazy idea for putting on a really big college esports event. We had hosted college leagues beforehand, but we never had anything that was flagship for us. So we had the idea of putting together a Heroes of the Storm competition and giving the winning team college tuition for their entire college career.
This was back in beta.
This is back in beta, so this is before the game even launched. We thought that it was just what the community needed to rally behind and really get interested in the game also. So the very first event, we broadcasted on ESPN2, and it was a shock to a lot of people, and it really elevated esports, especially college esports, to the national dialogue. I remember a lot of sports teams got involved with the conversations, a lot of sports personalities, and it was really interesting to hear the discussions. Half the world looked on and said, "What is this? Get off my lawn, give me back my poker or my football, and get this crap off the TV." And the other half of people said, "Wow, what is this?" The level of excitement, the level of energy, and the level of passion that clearly is shown in this competition and the fans who are there is it's palpable. And I may not know what the game is, but I'm intrigued, and I know the brands, and I know the schools, and I care about them one way or the other. So Heroes of the Dorm from the outset really elevated college gaming and really esports in general to that national dialogue, and we've seen an evolution of that over the course of the next couple of years. So Cal Berkeley won the very first Heroes of the Dorm. ASU, Arizona State, came in second place. Fast forward a year, Arizona State came back to win in dominating fashion. They took home the college tuition. And actually, the second year was the first year that we saw universities really get involved. I look back to when we started TESPA, and no universities were aware of esports. I remember we tried to host events on our campus, and we did, and they were successful. But when we went to the administration to ask them for support or space, they really turned a blind eye to us. They said, "We don't know what this is. It's weird. You guys are bringing in people from all over the world. We're not sure if this is okay." Fast forward to that Heroes of the Dorm, we finally started seeing universities look at this and say, wow, this is really cool. Students are doing something they're passionate about, and they're able to not only form those great connections, but they're able to represent themselves on some of the biggest stages. So we saw Arizona State, after they won, actually go back to campus, and the university embraced them. They built them a training facility. They brought them to the baseball game, brought them on field to honor them. Everybody got T-shirts celebrating their championship. So that was a really big turning point in terms of universities themselves getting turned on to esports. And really beginning to lay the support structures necessary to see some of the varsity programs we see today. The next year was our third year. The University of Texas at Arlington walked away with the victory. And, of course, this is our fourth year. We have some really great teams here. The competition, in my opinion, is closer than it ever has been. We look back, and we've always had that clear front runner. We don't have that this year. We have teams that have really good stories, but we're kind of at a place where anyone can win. Anybody can take the victory, and I think that makes this year's event that much more exciting.
And we have our first finals Canadian team.
That's right.
Well.
So Laval just made it into the championship, actually, the finals match. Really exciting. I think Canada has always been a part of Heroes of the Dorm, but we've never had a Canadian team make it to the Heroic Four. So seeing that, I know has made a lot of Canadians really happy, and I'm excited to see how far they can push it.
Lots of cheers out there after they just won their first set.
Well, we'll see if they have what it takes to win the whole thing. But I mean, the other stories are really good too, right? We have Cal Poly. Cal Poly is really interesting because they are the massive underdog. I was looking at the numbers last night, and 2% of people predicted Cal Poly to win, as compared to UC Irvine. UC Irvine came in being the clear favorite for the program. They actually got knocked out in the last round. 25% of people predicted that they would win the entire tournament, and Buffalo upset them. So there's some really cool underdog stories. Buffalo, like I just said, knocked out UC Irvine. They also... I think they're special because they're made up of two sets of brothers and then the friends, right? Super close. They're doing it as a way to connect with each other more than anything. And the fact that they were able to advance as far as they have, and now they're playing on the biggest stage in college esports is really special.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just there's nothing quite like seeing esports live either.
Right,
just the crowd cheering out there, the arena that's made just for Heroes. Like it's really, really fun to watch. You mentioned the first Dorm was on ESPN. How do you see esports acceptance now versus that 4 years ago when there was, I mean, in all honesty, there was a lot of backlash, and then there was a lot of like, this is interesting. These casters are super hype. I don't know what's going on, but I can't look away.
Right. Yeah, God, college esports has come a really long way. I was talking to Adam last night and reflecting a little bit, and we talked about our very first meeting that we ever hosted on the University of Texas's campus for TESPA. So about 8 years ago, we put up flyers, we posted online, and I still remember people walking into that room super shy, kind of darting around, looking behind their shoulders. They walk in, they're like, is this where the gamers are? It wasn't something that people were proud of, right? Like, people did gaming, they played games, but it was a very personal thing. It wasn't this thing that they used to connect with others, or it wasn't something they used as a social experience. We're night and day now. Everyone that we've talked to, at least here at this event, and everyone we've seen in our communities, they're proud to be a gamer, and they're able to embrace that. And because of that, the fact that they're able to embrace it, they're creating really cool experiences on their college campuses. So I think that's kind of indicative of how far collegiate esports has come these last couple of years. I think it's something that will continue to grow. The other thing that's really interesting to your question that I think is worth calling out is college esports is really interesting because in my mind it has the power to be a conduit to broader audiences. We all know college brands, right? We know Cal, we know Texas, we know Michigan, and we may like that team or we may hate that team, but we have some affiliation with them. And what we found is that by broadcasting events like Heroes of the Dorm to broad audiences, we're able to introduce esports to folks who may not otherwise be interested or may not have a hook. So a lot of people we found recently are tuning in saying, I may not know the game, but I know that brand, and that's enough to get me to watch.
That's my school.
That's my school. I want them to win, and they're fiercely invested, which I think is really special. This year we partnered with Raycom Sports, and we actually created an original series following the teams in our Atlantic Coast region. And what we did was we sent film crews out to the schools. We talked about the teams. We talked to the teams about their stories, about their aspirations, and we broadcasted that in 80 local markets on linear television. And the reaction we saw was tremendous. We saw an outpouring of support for these teams from people who weren't traditional esports viewers. So I think we're going to continue to see that trend grow. And as long as we're able to present content and present stories in a way that's accessible, I think college esports has a tremendous opportunity to continue bringing people into the esports fold at large.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's grown a lot, especially because I started watching with the first Heroes of the Dorm. I started playing in Tech Alpha, and just the growth on both sides of the scene has been really cool to watch over the last few years. And so kind of speaking to that, how many colleges participated this year? And I think you alluded to much greater, not even just from a numbers perspective, college participation, but from a we are going to help our team out college participation.
Yeah, so believe we had over 300 universities participate this year in Heroes of the Dorm. Looking back over the last 2 years, we've had over 1,500 universities participate in some competitive program that we've hosted. So there's definitely a really wide net that we're casting and a lot of students who are interested. I think the level of participation continues to blow us away. The students are super invested, they're super excited, and they're pursuing it with all they have.
Yeah, that's really great. It's cool to see the actual universities and colleges themselves too. Like you said, building a training facility and stuff like that that was unheard of several years ago.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll call out UC Irvine as the shining example. They right down the street from us in Irvine, but they have a training facility. They have a big gaming lab on campus. They're scholarshiping their athletes, so they have what's called varsity teams. Athletes are fully scholarshiped, and they have coaches. They have regimented training facilities. So to your point, it's really impressive to see the amount of support that universities are beginning to lend to these teams. And it's really interesting to see the effect that support has on their performance throughout these tournaments.
Yeah. So in kind of going at that, we're seeing kind of the crossover of esports, traditional sports, in the bracket challenge you guys are doing. What kind of gave you the idea for that, and was the point to that a little bit to bring in people and draw people to this esport that know basketball, for instance, and say, oh, a bracket challenge, I can relate to that.
Right. Yeah, I think we were heavily inspired by March Madness. I think March Madness is a really cool phenomenon where people who don't watch basketball will tune in and fill out a bracket because they know about the teams and they want their alma mater to win. And then because they fill out that bracket, they're invested. They care about the results and they watch the competition. So I think we've seen really great success with our bracket challenge. We've had tens of thousands of players from all around the world participate, voting for who they think is going to make it to the national championship. And I think the really special thing is that it's not only U.S. people or U.S.-based folks who are filling out that bracket. It's people from all around the world. We've seen folks from Korea and China and Europe who may not know these teams. They'll fill out the bracket, and because they fill out the bracket and they have some vested interest in the results, they'll pay attention and they'll root for the team even if they hadn't previously been affiliated with it. So we've seen great performance with the bracket challenge, and it's definitely something that we want to continue. I mean, we're all gamers at heart, right? So gamifying the experience of following an esports league is something that we can't say no to.
Yeah, and sometimes you get the familiar feeling of defeat when you look at your bracket and it's in the 5 digits.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This year, I think, is
It's a rough
especially
year this
interesting.
year.
There's been some
It was a
pretty
rough
dramatic
year.
upsets,
Yeah.
but that keeps it interesting,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It does. And so I know we've seen like some of the players that we've brought up, Michael Udall, Fan, Cure, have gone on to the HGC from kind of winning through Dorm. Do you see Dorm in some way as a stepping stone to the HGC?
Yeah, so we don't look at Dorm as an official stepping stone, but anecdotally, we've seen some really great students and stories come out of Heroes of the Dorm. We look at players like Michael Udall and Fan, who previously were not fairly well known. They were playing in college, and Heroes of the Dorm gave them an opportunity to make a name for themselves. It gave them that spotlight, and they rose to the occasion. They played really well. They led their teams to victory, and because of that, they were scouted and they were recruited by teams in the HGC. So I think it's really special. I think it's great when we're able to see students, again, find that pathway to their future through gaming, and Heroes of the Dorm is a great vessel through which they found their future as a professional or to being a professional gamer.
Sure. And then as we kind of wrap things up, where do you see Dorm going from here in the future as you build upon kind of the legacy that you've started? And do you want to do more with Heroes in the future than just this event?
Totally. Well, I mean, I look back 4 years, and before we hosted the first Heroes of the Dorm event, if you would have asked me where we would be today, we'd be off, right? I think esports has grown tremendously. The level of passion that we've seen from fans for collegiate esports has also grown tremendously, and we don't see that momentum slowing down. We love Heroes, we love the Heroes community, and we love Heroes of the Dorm. It's one of the events that I think is closest to our heart for a number of different reasons, namely the stories and what it means to the students who participate. So we don't see that slowing down. We look toward the future really optimistically, and we're excited to continue delivering really great tournament experiences for the players, but also viewing experience for everyone at home to follow along and root for their favorites.
So next stop, ESPN.
Who knows what the future will hold?
Who knows? Well, thank you, Tyler, so much for taking some time and talking to me about Dorm.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, really happy to be able to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, Heroes is near and dear to my heart, and so any more live Heroes events that come up and I get to go to, finally, I'm all on board with. So.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here also. Really excited.
Thank you.
All right. Tyler
All right.
Rosen. Not only do him and his brother Adam look similar, it turns out when you're dragging files, it also looks similar to Trent.
Yes, yes. For those of you who have joined us in chat today, you got a little extra treat.
Yes. Live
But it's
value,
all good.
live production value. Great interview.
Yes.
And we've had this discussion before. We've talked about, esports, not just college stuff, but it's getting to the point to where it is being an accepted thing. Obviously, it is growing in colleges now, and we've seen that over like the past 4 years, really kind of starting with Heroes of the Dorm in its first year, as far as, the collegiate level.
Oh no, that was one of the big initial pushes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole ESPN2 debacle really gave visibility to something that hadn't been visible that much before.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it was
On
making
that level.
headlines. It was making
Oh, yeah.
headlines at the time.
Yeah.
So
and he hit around the head when it was kind of a 50-50 split. Like it was, I remember that first year just kind of sitting on Twitter, and I was almost watching Twitter more than the actual tournament, just
It was
the discussions.
crazy.
And I honestly, I ended up having great discussions with a lot of people who just were trolling at first, but didn't know what was going on. Like I talked to, it was like 3 or 4 guys that were on a baseball team from university that started out kind of making fun of it. And I just had a conversation with them, and it kind of like, it just blew their mind. Like, cause they had no idea video game, like they didn't know there was professional gaming. They didn't know anything about the collegiate. Like it's awesome. And it's great to see it, getting that exposure and continuing to grow. And hopefully will continue to.
Yeah, and to hear about it continuing to grow from someone whose fingers on the pulse of the collegiate scene and esports in general as much as he had, I mean that's encouraging to me to just hear that it's got so much momentum. I mean, we kind of feel that ourselves too, but again, for someone who's involved in that entire scene in the way that he is, yeah, that's encouraging to me.
And I think another, maybe even more important than the growth of esports publicly, is the fact that people don't have to feel ashamed, or they don't feel ashamed to be gamers anymore.
Sure.
It's
not only not feeling ashamed, but embraced.
Yes.
One of the cool things, like he talked about UC Irvine. It's like, oh man, I wish I could go to that school now. Actually building like an arena, a training area, and scholarshiping these people who are doing these gaming things. We've heard about Fortnite scholarships that are going out for stuff. The landscape we're in is just so different than it was even just 4 years ago. It's incredible how much has happened since then, not only from just a general esports level, but from a collegiate esports level too, as Tyler referred to.
And not even just esports, video games. I mean, this could be tied to a whole larger discussion about how the nerd culture is winning out, that nerdy stuff is becoming mainstream, more accepted, just generally speaking. And I think that that's going to just continue as well, because as our generation gets older, we're still going to be into this stuff, and there's going to be up to 2-3 generations underneath us at times that will be as well. So it's just an exciting time to be alive, is all I'm trying to say.
Exciting time. Well, as we have stated several times, or I have stated several times, getting saltier and saltier each time I state it, you are at Heroes of the Dorm. Why don't you give us, because we are starting around time, kind of a brief overview of what that was like. What was the arena like? What was the atmosphere like there for it, versus HGC?
Sure. And we had an AMA today, so people know what they're getting themselves into.
Oh yeah.
When they listen to this. But yeah, the arena was really, really cool. It was essentially the whole Heroes arena was essentially actually built in front of the Overwatch stage. Partially because the Overwatch stage apparently takes like a week or two to take down and assemble. And Overwatch League was Wednesday, so they had to have something that was fairly easy to assemble and disassemble. So it looked very similar to the BlizzCon stage, but with like some updated effects and stuff. There was some really cool stuff with Infernal Shrines, with the Punisher stuff going on the enemy screen, and so that was really cool. The atmosphere was crazy. I mean, it wasn't BlizzCon, because you can't match BlizzCon in a small arena, but everyone was cheering super loud. We had chunks of people that were rooting for each of the individual colleges, which was really cool. And then of course for me, just the people, the Heroes community that was there. So many people I know, mostly, through Twitter, because you don't get to see these people super often. So it's just super fun to go and hang out with a lot of those people, catch up, cheer for the teams. And we got one of probably the best games of Heroes I've ever seen in my entire life, with Game 4 of Buffalo and
versus Cal Poly.
Cal Poly.
I was actually going to ask you, what was the pulse of the crowd in that one?
It was absolutely insane. Like as the draft was going on, I remember sitting down and talking to a few people, and all of us just going, "What the heck is Cal Poly doing?"
So explain what happened though, because this is
it was a Braxis game, 2 lanes, and Buffalo was drafting fairly standard, and Cal Poly drafts. They draft a Phoenix, an Abathur, a Cho'Gall, and an Alex Straza. So not only did they grab the Abathur first, which put them 1 body down, then they grabbed a Cho'Gall, which put them another body down. And so all of us just all of us just looking at this, we're going, are they insane? What the crap are they doing?
Well, and because they were risking their tournament life on it.
Oh yeah, they were down 1 with potential game end right there, and they proceeded to play the most perfectly executed game of Cho'Gall, Abathur, Phoenix, Alex Straza that I've ever seen in my entire life, because and I have, in all honesty, in my 4.5 years of Heroes, I have never seen a Cho'Gall clone. Not once.
Oh yeah. How do you even do that?
How it works?
How do you? Yeah.
It's just Cho.
Okay.
It's just Cho.
But it's pretty insane because you don't get the Gall stuff, but you get an extremely high health Cho with Cho's attacks.
And you can still get in there and mix it up. And
yeah, because of what they did, we're talking 2 Cho'Gall bodies with a Phoenix hitting in the background and percentage health healing from Alex Straza, who went full W build.
Yeah.
And it turned out they bullied the crap out of Buffalo. Buffalo just could not do anything. The Cho'Gall actually didn't even end up dying once the entire game.
And had some close calls too.
They did have some close calls, but like I can't recommend enough you going back, finding the VOD of that and watching it, because it is just an absolute freaking privilege. To see that play and that such a unique comp so well executed.
It was the coolest pocket strat I think we've seen since Cloud9 at BlizzCon with Murky. I'm gonna throw that out there.
Well, the Leoric Murky undying.
Yeah. It was the coolest.
Whose idea was it to start practicing that and stuff? I mean, we've seen Cho'Gall tried to be, played on Braxis before.
Yeah, it comes up sometimes.
It didn't go well at all. I don't remember who that was. It might have been Freedom a while back. With an Abathur. And...
He asked him about it, and the guy said that he plays a ton of Cho, but the other dude had only played 3 games of Gall.
Really? Wow.
So
how did they have that kind of coordination then? Like I get that. As long as you can land skill shots, you can play Gall, but you have to coordinate with the Cho pretty well.
Yeah, no, it worked. It was super impressive, and like I said, go check it out. But if you ever get the chance, Dorm is a really, really awesome event. It's very much like a mini BlizzCon for Heroes of the Storm only, and it's just really, really cool to see that played in the arena. The arena itself is super nice, super high tech. It was all decked out in Heroes stuff. And it's bigger than it looks when you are watching like Overwatch League or something like that. The seating actually goes
it's steep,
quite a bit further back. Yeah, it's a lot steeper than it looks when they're broadcasting. But overall, it was an absolutely incredible event. I got no sleep at all.
Oh, of course not.
You got more than Bethany, I'm sure. Flashes.
I was very
That's
tired.
That's how BlizzCon is.
Lost my voice, but I expect to do it all over again at BlizzCon. So it's just one of those things you kind of go into knowing. But highly recommend, if you can make it, to try and go to those, especially smaller events like that, because it's all Heroes people, and it's just super fun because of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was wondering if they had built that stage in front because it did look smaller than when it was on Overwatch. And I gotta say, I was kind of hoping that maybe they had they did some work and actually had something like graphics and stuff planned, and we're just gonna use the Overwatch stage because that would have been really cool. But maybe someday because that stage is sick. But
Yes, it is.
one of these days I'll get out there to the old Blizzard Arena. Well, let's go ahead and before we get out of here, TBK community content. What do you got for us this week?
So just some real quick stuff this week. First off, the official Blizz Heroes YouTube channel has put out some actually really informative videos. The casters from Dorm actually narrated these and kind of brought these along. So they put out a here's the storm win conditions. Here's the storm, can we win now? Here's the storm, can we fight now? And here's the storm mini map awareness. All of these are excellent videos, and I highly recommend taking a look at them because these are all areas of play where everybody can get more knowledge and get better at.
Yeah.
So,
wait,
check those out.
There's a mini map? I wasn't aware.
I know. It's crazy. It's down in the
Yeah.
bottom right. It
No.
shows you stuff.
Why
No.
would I want a mini map when I've got a regular sized map right in front of me? It makes no sense.
And it's kind of weird. And then finally, and this actually is another Critic Kitten thing that comes out of the AMA. It's on the and this is another perception thing. HOTS logs isn't accurate. That's the that has been a common perception for quite a bit of things. And so what Critic Kitten did was because in the AMA they released the actual win rates of all of the support heroes. He went and compared them to the current data from HOTS logs in the same general range that Blizzard said they took their statistics from. And interestingly enough, with slight outliers, HOTS logs was within 1%-ish of accuracy to official Blizzard stats on win rates. And I do have to say a little bit about HOTS logs too. Another perception issue that HOTS logs sucks because the website sucks. It's under new management. Mm-hmm. It's actually the same company that runs Wowhead. And they've cleaned it up a lot. They're doing a ton more with it. They're doing news. They're doing articles. Their Twitter is a lot more active. And they've just cleaned up the site a whole lot. So if you haven't been in a while, give it another shot because it does look a heck of a lot better and it is a lot more usable.
Yeah, I was gonna say the whole AMA that we just went through was a HOTS logs breakdown of it, which kind of threw me off at first when I saw it too. So yeah, it's cool.
Excellent. Well, that is going to do it this week. Multi, why don't you go ahead and tell people where we can be found?
You can find us on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon at Lords of the Storm and all those different places. Thank you guys for considering us in Patreon. And you can find us in-game by typing /join space LOTS, or you can join our Discord, which is sticky at the top of that Twitter, or at bit.ly/lots Discord. You can email us with feedback or questions, and on a slower week, we'll get to those. Lords of the Storm at outlook.com. And also, thank you guys for your reviews. We actually have a couple new reviews since we've kind of covered it previously. One as of just a couple days ago, coming from Crusader Dave, May 14th. 5 stars saying, these guys do a great job putting together an entertaining show each week. It's fun to consider the ideas they discuss. I'm constantly left wondering, what if Blizzard implemented insert much needed feature here? The group does a great job of covering all aspects of the game, from casual to pro. For those of you who can't get enough heroes, listen to Lords of the Storm to get your fix. So yeah, thanks for that. And I don't think we've read this one off either. From it was back in late April. King J0333 writes, "This podcast is top notch. It's referenced Chillrog at least 4 or 5 times already." So, yes, I'm sure we did at that point.
Awesome.
So. And now we're probably going to get a review after this one where people are like, yeah, all they talk about is Critic Kitten and Jules. And I like this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
By the way, we do know who Critic Kitten is. Yeah. I was joking earlier.
You can also find us individually, myself on Twitter and Twitch at GizmoZord, as well as on Convert to Raid Presents the Battle.net News, Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Central at twitch.tv/Convert to Raid. Multi, where can you be found?
I'm on Twitter at Multizord. I'm also on a show called Hearth Casual, which is on Twitter with the same name. And it's a full episode this week. We're going to be getting the last classes out of the way on the Monster Hunt, just going over those, as well as reacting to some of these arena changes and all kinds of stuff. So check it out.
And TBK?
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord, and I also write for Heroes Hearth. And you can find interviews and blog posts over on that site, so go check it out.
Excellent.
Did you end yours the same way I did, just to copy me?
Yes.
Poser.
We want to give a special thanks to our patron producer, Ouroboros Sword, for helping us support the show, as well as to all of our other patrons, Wicked Kitten for modding our chat. We will see you all same time, same place, next week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central. Until then, have a good one. Get ready to brawl, brothers.
Enough. I shall do no more.
Bam.
We did it.
Flawless.
fam.